Hi there. I chose Maria Montessori for my Education Giant report, and so I'm going to just jump right in and explain what she did for education and so on. She was born on August 31st, 1870, to her parents, who were both very educated people. Her father was an accountant in the civil service after his service within the Italian army. And her mom came from a very educated family, so she could read and write, and she adored books. In 1875, Marie and her family moved to Rome, and this is essential to know because she then enrolled in essentially what we would consider a high school, but it was a trade school, and so she learned engineering skills, thinking that she would go on to the university to study that. Upon completion and graduation, she decided that she did not want to go out and do engineering anymore. And so her parents thought of ways that they could help maybe encourage her to continue her education or to do something meaningful. And they both suggested, be a teacher. That's what you should do. It's available to you at the time. And Marie had different plans, and she showed that by applying to medical school. She wanted to be a doctor. Unfortunately, at the time, being a medical student meant that you were male, and that was it. There wasn't any change in the rules, and so she was denied acceptance her first try. I find it very impressive that as she continued, she was denied access to something, her dream essentially, and yet she continued to educate herself and take courses that would better her for the next time that she applied. And the Pope at the time, very important here. He interjected for Maria on the second time that she decided to apply. And so she was accepted into the University of Rome, where she did study medicine. On July 10th, 1896, Maria graduated with her degree in medicine and became one of the first qualified women in Italy to practice. And she became very well known in Italy for that reason. She was definitely a giant in that field, not knowing that she would become an education giant in the future. In 1898, a couple years after her degree in medicine, she got pregnant with a son whom she named Mario. And the thing is, it was out of wedlock. And it was through a love affair. And so when Mario was born, Maria sent him to a friend's house in the mountains in a neighboring town, and didn't really have anything to do with him during his childhood until he was 14 years of age, when Maria's mom passed away. And so she went and got Mario, and he lived with Maria thereafter. So in Rome, there were essentially low-income apartments that were going to be built, and they were going up everywhere. Wealthy bankers would invest money into these things and offer low-income housing. And the unfortunate part is that kids were always left home during the day because their parents both had to work. And so these wealthy bankers were worried about the kids ruining the buildings, and so they called Dr. Montessori and said, can you come help us? We need to be able to essentially start a daycare for these kids and figure out what we can do to provide them with time and activities so they won't ruin our buildings. So Maria accepted, and little did she know that this would be the start of her Montessori method. She observed not only things during her time as in the medical field, specifically working with psychiatry and children with special needs, but she was now also observing kids in environments where there was minimal things to do, and how could she kind of help them determine where to go with their day. I have a quote here about the Montessori method, and I'm going to break it up so that I can explain it a little bit better. But it says, the Montessori method is defined as a system for teaching young children in which fundamentalism is self-motivated education by the children themselves. This is key. This is essentially what the method is all about. Self-discovery, self-determination, self-motivation. Kids are guided by teachers. Teachers are observers, and they only interject when needed. They are not seen as an authoritative or dictator within the classroom. as they are encouraged to move freely, individualized instruction and physical exercises, accompanied by special emphasis on the training of the senses and the early development of reading and writing skills. So these kids who do study within the Montessori method often come out very intelligent and very ahead of what a normal public school may consider ahead of their class. A good thing to note about the Montessori method is that it's individualized. Every child, the teacher knows specifically what the child needs, how they learn, and then they bring ways for that child to learn specifically into their curriculum. So it's very, very individualized. However, with that being said, it's also a very expensive form of education, but well worth it, I think. There's over 4,000 Montessori schools here in the United States and over 7,000 worldwide. And so with that being said, obviously the majority of the Montessori movement is here in the United States. If you look at the PowerPoint, you'll see that there's a couple different schools that I went ahead and kind of shadowed and portrayed. One of them's even just up in Ammon, Idaho, about 30 minutes from Rexburg. And I wanted to show you that they're all over. They're not, I mean, the thing is, most of them are private schools, which is why there's tuition and fees involved. And it is pricey. It is probably more pricier than traditional education, private education. But the individualized portion of that is what makes it worthwhile. Your child is going to have specific instruction for them, which isn't always seen in a private institution, let alone in a public institution. That being said, like I said, with the schools going up everywhere, it's important to note that not all of the schools are private, however. And there's a quote that says that approximately 200 public schools in the United States and Canada are now offering Montessori programs, and the number is growing every year. I would not be surprised if we in 10 years see Montessori as the staple for education in public schools. It is so highly successful, and it is so simplistic. You know, it's a method that wants to promote peace. I question what would happen if we did implement it now. Would wars be changed? Would violence be changed? Would we see a difference in the way that generations are being raised? So just something to think about. After Maria's death, though, Mario Montessori went ahead and took over the Montessori Foundation until he passed away in 1982. As for personal thoughts, I think it's important to note that I haven't been in a Montessori institution, but I can see that it's being used in many schools around, and I'm not opposed to putting it into my classroom when I become a teacher. I think looking at the PowerPoint, you're going to see some pictures and some ideas behind some of instruction materials, and also like a lesson plan that you may see in a Montessori classroom. And I think that'll better describe kind of the individualized programs that I'm talking about. And I hope that as the years go on, that Montessori does spread, because it is an incredible program to be involved in. And I just want to say that Maria Montessori is one heck of a lady for coming up with this, and she had so many contributions to the world, and this was definitely her best. Thank you.